All right. So welcome everyone to the February 2021 meeting of the Mid-Atlantic Amateur Radio Club. I'm glad to welcome you all aboard. So just as a reminder, all of our in-person events are canceled until further notice due to the COVID pandemic. So we are meeting here on Zoom every month. And of course, our nets are going on as normal. So I think this will continue for at least the next couple of months, and hoping maybe the latter half of the year we can start ramping things up, although it may be next year before we can do that. So as we usually do, we'll start with a round of introductions. I'm Jeremy Carlo, N2ZLQ, the club president. So the way we'll do this is we'll go by the last letter in your call sign. So if the last letter in your call sign is A through E, you can check in now. Got nobody. All right. So let's see, F through L.
W3JNF, Jim.
Yeah, this is Ron, KC3ACL.
Karen?
No, didn't do M yet.
I'm sorry.
What's in the queue? What is this?
And this is Lou, WX3I.
Rich, KB3VZL.
All right, let's do M through R.
KC3ACM, Karen?
Alan, AB3FN.
Top KB3RLP.
Right, and anybody? Anyone who hasn't checked in yet?
Dennis, K3.
K3JH.
Dennis, K3DS.
And
WQ3Z.
it looks like maybe
Ned, your frozen picture there is starting to freak me out.
yeah.
And WQ3Z.
And Jeremy, it looks like Victor's trying to check in, but he's having trouble.
Yeah, Victor, you're muted.
You're muted.
And WQ3Z.
And it looks like Ned, your frozen
We're still getting that echo. John, if you have YouTube open anywhere on your computer, shut it off. Just close the tab if you have YouTube open anywhere.
And maybe the last check-in, Mike, N3QLZ.
All right, thanks, Mike. All right, so as many of you have heard, our friend Mitch, K3UCR, passed away last week. He became a silent key. So I'm going to open up. This is one of the sad things that I really don't like to do as president, but we will start with a moment of silence to remember Mitch. All right, thank you. Yeah, Mitch was really a fixture at the club, always at club meetings, as well as at Marple Newtown. He was the keeper of the pantry, as he would always say. One of our net control operators, always did a really entertaining job when he did that. So we're going to miss Mitch. Did anyone want to add anything? I know we had a really nice net last week where we had some remembrances of Mitch.
I think it would be appropriate for the club to send a sympathy card to the family.
Yeah, let's do that. Okay, so let's move on to something a little happier. For the past 2 years, Rich Russo, KB3VZL, has ably served as our president. And as we often do, I had a little plaque made up and sent to Rich, so I'd like to present that to him for his service over the past 2 years. So Rich, do you have the plaque?
Yes, I do.
All right, let me take a look. There it is. All right, so thanks, Rich. It's always a great thing when people volunteer, and especially to take leadership of the club. So we thank you for your service as president and also continuing as vice president. So thank you very much, Rich, and let's give him a round of applause.
Thank you. They're all muted. I can't hear it.
All right. So moving on, Lou, Treasurer's Report.
Okay. As of today, we have $16,201.70 in the bank. All bills have been paid that I know of. And we've received dues payments from 62 members.
All right. Thanks, Lou. Jim, do you have anything for secretary or membership services?
Well, Lou kind of covered the membership, but 62, but now nothing to report as far as secretarial.
Okay, thanks. Let's see, Dennis, technical services.
Well, let me dovetail too with membership. Since I am also webmaster, I always do the graying out of past members. So coming up to March, that'll be the last time that I'll send out another reminder to people to up, because we have quite a few that haven't re-upped. So we'll do that one more time in March, and then usually by the end of March, we call the email list. Somebody rings in and says, how come I'm not getting any more emails from the club? That's probably why. So we'll do that. And for technical, for the first time in a very long time, we've got trouble in River City. We have a absorbed repeater from the DCRA, which is at Fitzgerald Mercy Hospital. It's 14736, and it has decided to go off the air. Technical committee, which consists of me, myself, and I, are working on it. We do have another group that has an ATV repeater there, and they report all as well. So we know there's power there. I cannot visit the site. I guess I could try to sneak in, but if they catch me, penalties, because I have not gotten the COVID shots, and I also have to get the COVID screening test before I can even enter the hospital, because they feel it's a non-critical infrastructure. So be that as it may. However, with the repeater being 35 years old, it's an E.F. Johnson repeater. It's solid state all throughout, but it's also 35 years old. I'm not holding out any particular good wishes, because I really don't want to work on it anymore. A repeater has been through a couple of different changes, including repairing its core circuitry about 15, 20 years ago. So I think it's time to re-up. So one thing that we ought to do is we'll be seriously considering basically duping what we've done at NSQ and at Paoli, which is, if you go to the website, it's a commercial Kenwood TKR 750 repeater with a crescendo amplifier. Everything else should be hopefully okay. Duplexes and antenna, all that should be fine. Unless there is an antenna problem, it's not the repeater, I still don't know for sure. So that'll be what's happening there, and hopefully we'll get it back when possible. Although the 14736 is a remnant of the DCRA, it's kind of an interesting repeater because it's on the motor generator shed of the hospital. The entire facility is including the ATV repeater, so we know there's power there. And that means that when all else fails, it'll be on the air. And it puts out a hell of a signal with a 24-foot superstation master antenna on top of a 50-foot tower. Take a look at on the website. So we'll see what happens there, but I got to get my shots and then get cleared before I can even try to approach the hospital. That's it.
All right. Thank you, Dennis. Let's see, well, we could do public service, but I'll give Bob a minute to get acquainted here. Jim, did you have anything to say about Field Day?
Right now, I don't really have anything because there's nothing open unless maybe Lou has some thoughts about the site opening prior to June, but right now, nothing. I think everybody's in a holding pattern because nobody knows what's happening tomorrow with COVID. I have both of my shots, so I'm good to go. So, you know, we just have to get the rest of the country online here.
I don't know what's happening at the firehouse, to be honest. I mean, they've been doing a lot of things remote because of, you know, it's hit the firehouse a little bit hard. The good news is, I know you said you got your shots. First responders in Montgomery County got the opportunity to get the shots. So I have the shots, and most of the people at the firehouse have the shots. So I don't know what they're going to do with with making the field available or not. I'll have to check into that.
If you don't mind, that would be great, Lou, because Ron Kenwood, I guess, is not involved anymore, because I've tried calling him a couple times.
Well, yeah, Ron moved away, and
Right.
I haven't seen him in over a year. So,
Okay.
I mean, he pops up on like the Montgomery County Races meeting, I think, occasionally, and that kind of stuff. But yeah, I haven't. He's backed away from a lot of things. He is not the person to contact at the firehouse anymore.
Yeah, well, I think you mentioned that, but
yeah,
I did try to call him, which I lost my mind, I guess. But whatever you can do for us, so.
Yeah, I'll check into it. I'll see what their thoughts are, and of course, everything is fluid. I mean,
right.
Right now things are looking better, but we'll have to wait and see.
Good. So that's field day, Jeremy.
Got my
Up
field
in the
day
air.
shirt. I got my field day shirt on. And my understanding is the ARRL is going to continue last year's rules again. So one Delta stations can work each other, and you can do aggregate club scores. So you can operate at your home station and submit those towards the MARC score if you want. At least that's my understanding. I think they are going to have a limit on home stations to 150 watts. I guess if you're planning to run a kilowatt for field day, I think you're not allowed to anymore. So maybe that was one of the issues they ran into. Yeah, so obviously everything is up in the air. That brings me to the Ham Fest, which is similarly up in the air. So I'm not sure whether we'll be able to hold it, whether Kimberton would allow us at the site, whether there would be restrictions in place. And also we do need a Ham Fest chair. At this point, I'm oversubscribed. I can't take on an additional responsibility. So if the Ham Fest is to happen, we're going to need somebody to be a Ham Fest chair. I'm willing to help out as much as I can, but I can't be the point person for it. So I guess if we don't have a Ham Fest chair, then it will be canceled, at least for this year. And then hopefully by 2022, maybe things will be looking up a little bit more. All right, so that brings us to public service. Bob.
Okay. I've got my field day shirt on too. It's from 2013. Basically, not a whole lot of information out there about public service events. Penn is just completely seems like they're not doing anything. So I will reach out to the previous year, which would be 2019's organizer, I guess, and see what they think. As far as MS walks, they are all listed. Unfortunately, all of the MS walks are listed to go off on May the 1st. Which is it's all the same date. The Westchester one, which is East Goshen, that's May 1st. Phoenixville's May 1st, and also the Ridley Creek State Park one, which I believe that they call that the media one. But they're all on the same date, and so this causes a problem. Just due to the fact that there's no way we can be spread quite that thin with two events, really. I mean, we could try it. I think we've actually done it once before, I think, but I don't know. That just seems ridiculous that they would have all the events all on the same weekend, the same day. I don't know. So maybe that will change. I'll try to contact someone at MS to try to clarify that and see what can be done. But the way it looks now, that's kind of the way it stacks up. Just not a whole lot of information. As far as the Radnor Parade, Normally, I would have gotten emails from the parade chairman regarding meetings and so forth, and I've gotten nothing. So it's kind of looking like even that event may be like it was last year, where they just had a ceremony at the War Memorial and no parade. So, but I will continue to look into it and see what I can come up with. But it looks like everybody is in a wait and see kind of pattern. So that's the public service story for this for the meeting, I guess.
All right, thanks, Bob. Yeah, I guess it's getting a little hard to do public service if we can't have any events.
Yeah.
Well, hopefully, if nothing else, the fall will start to look a little bit better, and maybe we'll get some of the fall events. All right, so thanks, Bob. Give a quick update on nets. Our nets are still running on Wednesdays and Sundays at 8:30 p.m. Those are on our 147.06 and our 145.13 repeaters. We're averaging between 12 and 15 check-ins on each net. So if you haven't checked into a net in a while, by all means, check it out. We're a friendly group. We have a couple of great net control operators who are taking turns running the nets, and it's always a good time. All right. There's also the Marple Newtown nets at 8:30 a.m., 7 days a week. I think every day except for Christmas Day. I think even that they might do as well. I'm not sure. I've never tried checking in on December 25th. But yeah, those are always great nets too to check in. And more recently, there's a Philmont net, which has been Monday through Friday at 5 p.m. And that's on their repeater 147.030. So you can check that net out. They've had some pretty nice activity. I've only gotten to check in a couple times, but they're a pretty good one. All right, so does anyone else have anything for the group? All right, so then without further ado, we'll move on to the programs portion of the meeting. I'll start by giving you a little preview of what's coming up. Next month, that'll be March 30th, which is actually the 5th Tuesday. We're going to have a special speaker, and that's why our date is a little bit different. We're going to have Tim Duffy, K3LR. He's the CEO of DX Engineering, which you might know, a place where you can buy a lot of ham gear. He gave us a presentation back in, I think it was September, on antennas, so we're inviting him back. And he'll be talking about his station, his contest station. So if you thought you've got some pretty fancy stuff, wait till you see what he has. He's got not a tower, but towers, each with multiple antennas. I think there's multiple operating sites there. So he's got a really great station. So I'm looking forward to hearing about that. Then in April and May, we're going to have a double header. We're going to have Barry Fierman, K3EUI. So he's presented to us before. He's a physics teacher, which is actually how I originally met him. He's a great teacher, a great explainer of things. And he's going to tell us about nano VNA, which Dennis was showing us before. These are little vector network analyzers that are inexpensive. So you can use them for a whole bunch of things. So in April, Barry will give us kind of the beginner version of it. And then in May, he'll give us the advanced version of it. So a whole bunch of different things that can be done with the nano VNA. All right, so that brings us to tonight's presentation, another one that I've been looking forward to. Tonight we have our very own John Huck, K3JH. And John is going to tell us about Summits on the Air, which is an operating program that he's been quite active in, where the idea is you get up onto, well, as the name sounds, a summit, and you get on the air. All right, so I think I'll turn it over to John. You can take it away.
Okay, Jeremy, how is my audio?
You're good.
Okay. Pardon me, a little frog in my throat tonight. As I mentioned to Jeremy before, I have written and rewritten this thing in my head about 50 times in the last 45 days. And I've outlined it 3 times on paper, and it changes every time because although you are all, in many cases, extremely knowledgeable hams with a great technical background, unless you've thought about this program and played in it, it's not likely you know very much about it. So 2 good friends of mine, my former soda crew when we were going out, Jill in Delaware, N3 ICE, and Jim Upson, who was a member of the MARC Club. He lives down in Wilmington. And let me see, Jim's only had about 3 calls since I've known him. In fact, I met him at one of our Saturday morning breakfast, and we got together and started doing soda together. And he's rapidly climbing the ladder. But if you're in soda and you're an activator and you want to get to the big time, the big time, you want to become what's called a mountain goat. And a mountain goat is an activator who has accumulated 1,000 activation points. And let me tell you, that's not an easy task. A lot of people spend years trying to get there. I'll never get there. It's too many hill climbs for me. But anyway, I'm about 1/5 of a way there. And actually, I haven't been out on a summit in a while. Some of you may remember from me hobbling around meetings when we still had in-person meetings. Had a couple joint operations in the last 4 years and a pacemaker. So going up anything but the mildest summit was out of my range. Anyway, I'm hoping to get back into it and get a few new summit points. So let me do this at this point, and I'll take us over to the website, which is www.sota.org.uk. And SOTA started in 2002 in the UK. And if you go to the website, you can get detailed history. I won't try to give you detailed history. We could be here for hours. What I'll try to do is give you a couple basic do's and don'ts, send you to that website. It's free to get a membership, but not a membership, a participation number, an account number, which you need to log activations, which is going up on the hills. And the other side, and we need a lot of them too, are chasers. And those are normally the people who sit home in their shack and listen, follow the spotting for soda, and then make contacts with the people on the hills. Now, when you're on a hill, you need a minimum of 4 contacts, completed contacts, to qualify the summit. Well, for points, you need 4. 1 contact on a summit will, in fact, quote unquote, qualify. It just doesn't get you any points. And in my career, I've had 2 of them. One was a summit up in on the Lebanon County, Lancaster County border, and 20 meters, 5 watts, SSB, and I got a contact in Cuba. So it's always nice to have a 2,000, 3,000 foot antenna. That's a 1-point summit. Down in Georgia, I managed to get 1 contact on a very nice summit, really, but I don't know whether it was me or conditions that day, but I couldn't raise anyone. Anyway, let me see. What do you need to know? I know some of you are contesters, and I understand in most contesting, spotting or self-spotting is verboten. In summits on the air, it's quite the opposite. Many people out on the hills are doing QRP, not because they don't like QRO, but they have to carry all their gear and all their power with them. And your power has to be battery, solar, wind, And I read somewhere about a guy had a hand crank generator that were quite common in Australia years ago. And he could power his station with that. But you can't have a gasoline powered generator. You can't run it off the battery in your car. You have to be out of your car and some distance away from it. Now, that's kind of loosely defined because those of us with mobility issues, we may not want to carry our stuff too far, or even be able to carry it too far. So anyway, let me get over here and get this other part started so you can see some things and hear some things and ask questions if you want. And as you know, Summit's on the air. SOTA is the name of the program. And I am both a chaser and an activator. And now where did my link go? Oh, this is what's making me nuts. Now let me do this. Okay. And this is on the website. And as you can see, we are Whiskey 3 is our group. And Whiskey 3, W3, covers Pennsylvania, Maryland, the District of Columbia, and Delaware. Well, there are no SOTA summits in Delaware or the District of Columbia. So they only exist in Maryland and in Pennsylvania. And Pennsylvania has the overwhelming number of them compared to that. Let me zoom down here to the bottom page and show you a quick map that'll help you. There you go.
You got to share the screen so we can see it.
Ah, okay. Let me see.
There's a green button toward the bottom. It says share screen.
Okay, let me.
He may have to move his mouse.
Well, I'd like you guys to see this, and I'm looking for where.
At the bottom of the Zoom window, it's like a little green button that says share screen.
No, that's not showing up here. Wait a second. Unless it comes up on the very bottom here. I tried extracting this stuff and putting it in slides, and I did it twice and broke it twice. So I decided that's not going to work. We'll never get that done. And geez. Okay, there's none there. So let me.
You have to hover your mouse down near the bottom of the screen, and then the strip comes up. The function strip comes up along the bottom.
Okay, there's a function script. Share screen right in the middle.
And then you just have to select which window you want to share.
Let's see if that's the right one. I should have known this was going to make me nuts. Make you guys nuts too. Okay, I got to unlock it. Okay. Oh boy, this is defeating me, that's for sure. Let me see. Try share screen again.
You should get a little pop-up when you click on share screen. And then you need to select which window you want to share.
Well, unfortunately, It gives me about 8 of them with none with really identifiable names. Let me try the Safari one. I apologize, gentlemen. We're deep into operator error here.
Take your time, John. Jeremy, does he have co-host capabilities? Don't you need that?
You should be able to share it anyway, but I'll make you co-host.
I'm glad some of you guys know something about this.
We've all been drinking from the fire hose over the last year or so.
Okay, let me try.
Only if you're in Texas.
I don't want that. Let me see. Cancel that. Back into a circular argument here. Let me see. Okay. While I try to figure that out, let me tell you a couple things you need to know while I try to figure out what I'm doing here with Zoom. I started to tell you about the basic rules of soda, and there's that arm that I was showing you before, which I wanted you guys to be able to see and see the diagrams in there. Is the rules, and that one is there's a set of rules specifically for each region and each subset of a region. And as I said, this all started 2002. There are now 180 some countries participating, mostly but not exclusively in the Northern Hemisphere. I mean, you do have South Africa and New Zealand and Australia, and can't think of anything else in the Southern Hemisphere, but there probably is. There's a lot in Europe. Some of the associations are DX locations. How do you say it? Bovet Island has one summit on it. Malta has 2 summits. California has more summits than almost the rest of the U.S., and Alaska. Alaska's got Boku, but there aren't that many soda activators in Alaska, and many of the Alaskan summits are serious climbs. They're technical climbs, not something that chubby old men could walk up the hill. And in fact, the Brits in the statement says this was a chance to combine hill walking, as they call it, because the UK's got a lot. England has a bunch of 1 and 2 point summits. Wales the same. When you get to the north of England, and especially when you get into Scotland, you've got a lot of serious climbs. Some of them are actually technical climbs where you need good climbing gear. I don't ever have to worry about that. Oh God, come on, John. What do you got to do here to get this to I'm in the meeting. Jeremy, is there something else you guys could talk about for a minute? Some unfinished business while I try to figure out what the heck I got to do to share this screen, even though I see the share
You want
screen
me to show the
button.
website? I could probably share it from here.
Okay, well, the www, I think I sent it to you in an email dot.
Want me to share that?
Yeah, and
All right. There we go.
Okay. Now, this is the basic, there we go, and we can, all right, well, this shows you the top there, just a couple of places, and you can see that one on the screen. Well, this is the UK, and the one on the screen, this is GM, I believe, is Scotland, and the one on before was Switzerland, and of course, Switzerland has serious mountains. Anyway, as you can see, it's an award scheme, and we want to move down. Okay, hold it there if you would, Jeremy. Thank you. You can see the guidance, the plan, and you can also see on the right side that latest soda spots. And this is one of the places you would come to find someone to listen to work. And as you can see, there are a lot of CW, some SSB, an FM site, which somewhere in California, W6. And let's see, VK is Australia. Anyway, you can work any mode and any frequency that is legal for you is a viable SOTA frequency. The only thing there is there going to be anybody on the other side listening for you? Well, if you take advantage of the spotting features that are kind of built in, which is, say you were planning to go up Saturday, and the closest SOTA summit to where we all meet, where we all met when we went in person, is something called Welsh Mountain West, and it's just up Route 30 or 322. You can get to it either way, and it's very close to Shady Maple. I think some of you are familiar with the Shady Maple smorgasbord, and it is literally a drive-up summit. It's on the Lancaster Conservancy's Welsh Mountain location. Has a nice parking lot, and you do not have to be exactly on the summit. And in fact, at Welsh Mountain, the Conservancy kind of asks you to stay on the trails, and you would have to get 20 or 30 yards off the trail to get to the actual, honest to God, max summit. But because that's not always possible for reasons like that, and you have to get within 82 feet, which is the rough equivalent of 25 meters from the summit. And you get a good topo map, and you can see where the lines run. So at Welsh Mountain, at the Lancaster Conservancy's parking lot, to access that with several trails, is actually within the activation zone. So if you drive up there to Welsh Mountain, go into the parking lot, unload your gear and carry it to the other side of the parking lot. We always like to set up over at the edge of the woods, and you're completely legal. You're not in anybody's way, and you can activate that summit from right there. There's at least 2 others in the area that are similarly easy to get to and easy to activate. And there are some others that are not very difficult. If you're capable of hiking a little bit of the Appalachian Trail, then there's a couple on the trail near us. Now, when I say near us, let me see. This is going to frustrate me a little bit. Okay, Jeremy, could we run down the site a little bit more? Okay. That's, I guess, all the further it's going to go on this.
There's
Okay,
someone
let's,
here.
associations and summits, let's do that. Okay, here I just will, if Jeremy, we can slowly run through the list just so everybody can see what we're talking about here, you know. Montenegro, Israel, and going down, these are the different associations around the world. And those of you who work HF know that you can, on a good day, you can reach Spain and you can reach the Canary Islands. New Caledonia is a long way away. Well, there you go. There's one. Northern Ireland has 5 zones, 5 regions, and 65 summits. The Bailiwick of Jersey has 1 region and 1 summit. Scotland, as you can see, is 1,218 summits. And as we keep going down through, you'll see that Japan has a bunch. There you go. 10,439 in the Anchorage, Alaska region alone, 6,100 in the Fairbanks, 1,825 in Southeast Alaska. Of course, as most of us know, Alaska is a pretty good haul from here on HF usually, but, and as we go down the list, you can see, you know, places, some of you, especially you guys are DX chasers, have worked in the past and will work again in the future. The Netherlands, where I lived for 3 years, has 2. I wasn't a ham then. I wish I had been. That would have been an easy 2 to get. Nothing's very high in the Netherlands. In fact, a lot of the darn country is below sea level. And as we get down, you can see Brazil, Namibia in Africa has quite a few. Nova Scotia even has 32. So we run on down to the bottom slowly, Jeremy, just so everyone can see. Okay, let's stop here a second and we'll go to W3, USA. Okay. And if we run down this a little bit, you'll see that these are the regions within W3. Capital region, Erie, Pennsylvania Dutch, Philadelphia. Now there's 4 summits in the Philadelphia region, but one of them you need to get permission to at least because it's behind a sign on the gate that says no trespass. So now if you're Dan's Pulpit East is on the Appalachian Trail, and Camp Blue Mountain, which I've done, fairly flat walk on the trail. As you can see, there's 12 activations have been done there. And I account for one of them, and my friend Jill and Jim and our late friend. Oh, here you go. Here's an activation report by him. That's AB3TQ, Glenn Moeller, who unfortunately is a silent key. And Glenn was really, really helpful in our efforts at SOTA, because one of his other hobbies was geocaching. So if you're going to geocache, and there's a fair number of hams that are geocachers, you have to be familiar with topo maps. You're probably familiar with the concept of, they call it bushwhacking, which is cross country without trails. And I see that Glenn's on here a couple times, and that's normally when he took someone else to that site. But anyway, and as you can see, there's the bands that work the best there, and this is something good to know. Mostly 20 and 40 meters. 4 people did 80 meters. But you have to step off of the trail because there will be hikers coming through. So, and the woods are fairly dense, but not ridiculous alongside the trail there. And the trail is well marked, so you shouldn't get lost. That's another advantage. You shouldn't get lost. Anyway, I made my obligatory 4 QSOs there. As you can see, N3ICE is one there, and twice. And she made 22 contacts one time and 27 the next. And as you all are probably aware, there's a certain chauvinistic aspect to some of us, especially older hams, where if we hear a female voice on the radio, we respond to it. Well, Jill is a very nice lady. Among ourselves, we refer to her as the Ice Queen because she didn't care how damn cold it was. She'd just bundle up and go. And I've got pictures, and I was trying to find them earlier today, of her and AC3B, which is Jim Upton, and even A3B-TQ sitting in the snow on various places activating. Now, the reason you want to do it in the snow is there's a winter bonus of 3 points. So, and the neat thing is if you go up and do a 2-point hill during the winter bonus season from the 1st of December to I think it's the end of March, you turn a 2-point into a 5-point. But if you couldn't get enough contacts, maybe you got up there and got your 4, you could go back, and you can only work a summit for points once a year. Now you can go up and work it again and give other people points, but you can't accrue any points working a summit more than once in a calendar year. However, if you go up in the good weather and you get your 2 points for that summit, you can come back in the cold season and get 3 more points, and you're not violating the reworking because you won't get 5 for that trip, but you will get 3 for your cold weather bonus. So there's a lot of little quirks in this that I didn't want to get too deep into because it'll drive you all nuts. Just too much minutia at first. But anyway, N3ICE is one of the 4 mountain goats, 1,000 or more points in W3. And of course, that's Maryland and Virginia in reality. I mean, Maryland and Pennsylvania. And one of the other mountain goats in the area, I don't really know. I think I met him once, and that's Richard Jones. And he's on here as a list as the area coordinator for SOTA in W3. Richard Jones, N2 GBR. And let me see. Yeah, one I was referring to is Camp Blue Mountain South. And then across the, let's go down to the bottom of this chart. Let me see. Okay, we could click on Glenn's. Now, some people leave minimal notes. Anyway, if you continue across the Appalachian Trail, going, I guess, north and east as it goes from there, it's about a 2 or 3 mile hike from the roadway along to Dan's Pulpit, and that's the other 3-point. So anyway, Jeremy, if we go down the page at this point. Okay, I tell you what, click on the Pocono. As you can see, you got varying point values for Poconos. 8 points for the first 3 there. So they're probably, if they're not that far apart, you might go out early on a Saturday morning and hit 2 or 3 of them and come back with 16, or in this time frame with the weather bonuses, 22 points. That makes for a nice day. But anyway, what you're going to need to do, well, I'm going to recommend this. Go to this website and sign up. Doesn't cost you anything. And that gives you the ability to access all of this information and to report your activities. And of course, the easiest thing, pardon me, to start is as a chaser. And you guys who are lucky enough to have real shacks and real antennas of any sort permanently out there, you'd be surprised how fast you can rack up points. And the good thing about the way SOTA is spotted, someone who's planning to go out Saturday or Sunday, 2 days from now or 10 days from now, can go on and place an alert saying that this is what I plan to do. I plan to work 20 meters from this hill, maybe 20 and 40 from this hill. And I expect to be there 1100 hours Saturday morning Zulu. So then if you're looking at what your calendar is, say, well, gee, I'm not doing anything that time Saturday morning. I'll fire up my radio and listen for them. So you hear them. That day, you go to the spots, and each activator should put up a spot saying, yep, I'm here, and start calling CQ. You hear him, you answer him, you make your contact, you exchange usually name, QTH, and a signal report. And if there aren't a whole bunch of people trying to call him at once, you might ask him what the weather is, or what the conditions were getting up the road to get there. But if there's a whole lot of people calling, I can promise you, you don't want to make it any longer than it has to be. Your name, your call sign, your signal report, and maybe a thank you. And because there'll be other people in line behind you. But anyway, with the alerts telling you what's going to happen in the future and the spots telling you what should be happening right now, you should be good to go. And it's not, it's considered helpful if you decide to spot someone you've heard. Maybe even if you couldn't work him or her, more likely him, you make other people aware of them. So okay, here's the last, thank you, Jeremy, the last 50 spots. And
it seems like there's a lot just within the last few hours.
Right. And you got to remember, this is a worldwide virtually. So you got a really good receiving antenna, and you can spot. Let's see. Yeah, as you can see, they're all over the place. And as conditions aren't fantastic now, this time of year, and in this part of the cycle, if you're CW capable, you'll do better. And there are a lot of people who activate only CW because you can get some rigs not a whole lot bigger than a can of Altoids, and a key and a small battery and some kind of antenna, sometimes a simple wire. You're on the air and you've got, what's the multiplier? Figured to be 10. If you're doing 5 watts CW, you're more like 50 watts SSB. So anyway,
John, can you use digital modes? Because all I see is SSB and CW.
any mode that's legal for you to use, you can use on SOTA. And there are not a whole lot of digitals out there, but there are some people working digital. So that's the advantage to watching the alerts. And it's not unheard of to send the guy a message asking him if he can do digital, or, you know, somebody's on a hill you particularly want to work, you know, look him up on QRZ and send him an email and say, hey, I see you're going to XYZ mountain in Western Colorado. Do you happen to do digital? And most people are happy to reply because, as I said, he's got to have 4 confirmed contacts to make the points. And it doesn't matter how you get them. In fact, the interesting thing is, as I said, the point value for a hill is based on its average height above sea level. And there is no direct correlation between point value and difficulty. Although obviously a 1 and 2 point hill is not going to be terribly challenging. Some 3, 4, 5, 6, and of course, when you get 7, 8, 9, and 10, you get to 10, some of them are real bears. But one of the most famous SOTA peaks is a 10-pointer, and you'll all recognize the name of it right away. It's called Pikes Peak. That's 14,000 plus feet. But you do not need a whole lot of power because you can work that very successfully. I think it's in the front range, Jeremy, if you hit the front range. There we go. Oh, I thought I saw Pikes Peak. And there's a bunch of extra stuff that's been added by activators. But the big thing about Pikes Peak is, if you're not familiar with it, there's a road that runs right up to the summit. So you don't have to hike up. Well, you might have to hike 50 meters, 100 meters from your car with your gear. You can do that in 2 trips. But so that's 10 points, and you can work that, and it's frequently worked VHF because you're 14,000 feet in the air, and that gives you one hell of a footprint.
John,
And
there's also a cog railroad. I think it closed down for a couple of years for rebuilding, but I've actually taken the cog railroad up to the Pikes Peak, so you don't have to drive the road. The road is dirt, and my brother-in-law did it in a rental car, and his radiator blew up.
And there are places, if you're driving down, where they have brake checks, where you pull over and the ranger comes out, well, I guess with a digital handheld thermometer, and checks your brake temperature. And they tell you when you come down, you should come down in low gear and stay off the brakes and stay off the gas, just kind of drift. And I guess in low gear, let your transmission do most of the braking. Yeah, that's on my bucket list. And I considered hiring an Uber driver. God knows what they'd want, but and you may be able to find, once I get closer to actually getting out there, I'm going to get in touch with some of the bigger chasers in activators in the Colorado area and see if they know anybody who maybe makes a sideline out of dragging tourists to the top of that. Because I haven't been in that much elevation in a long time, and I would be worried about getting up there. And in fact, I tell you to be careful because you can get disoriented. You're taking lower amounts of oxygen because there's just less oxygen to be had.
I was up there in July and it was snowing and people were in shorts and t-shirts.
Yeah, they learn a hard lesson sometimes because when you're at 14,000 feet, the ambient air temperature is pretty damn cold. So, but as you can see, they're all 10 pointers in that area. And the, if you, that'll go down to 8. There is, or there has been a couple times in the past, a group of 1 day a year where a bunch of hams work what they call the 14ers. And as you can see, there's, well, that's all in meters, but there's more than 14,000 foot peaks. And they get up there and they use VHF. QRP sometimes they boost it slightly. I mean, and they work as many of themselves as they can. So, and another thing, if you're chasing somebody and you hear some guy call the person you're trying to call, but he appends that with S2S. That's summit to summit. Do yourself a great favor if you don't want to enter somebody's permanent lid book. Stand by. Let the summit to summit happen, because that's more points for both of them. And they're frequently hard to get and not that many opportunities come along. So like I said, if you're chasing and you hear S to S, stand by and let them go. I have always tried to do just that. And if I'm activating, and I've activated a couple 6 and 8 points. I've never done a 10 point. I answer anyone and everyone who calls me until they stop. Because I've been out there when I got 3 and not 4 and didn't get the points. And that's after driving halfway across the state into the Susquehanna, the Pennsylvania Wilds region, and just couldn't get that last contact and had to give it up to come home. So like I said, if I'm on the mountain and there's nothing chasing me off, there's no weather or animals or anything like that, I stay and I answer everyone who calls me. Not everybody does that, but as an activator, you need the chasers. You can't do it by yourself. So I always try to extend as much courtesy to the chasers as I can. And this is a lot of fun, and it gives you something else to do in ham radio. And that's why I like it. And the other thing is I'm QRP by necessity. I don't have room for a shack in this condo. We have a no outdoor antenna policy. So when I bought my HF rig, I bought a KX3 6 to 160. And I'm pretty sure most of you have got an idea of how big a KX3 is. Think a box of saltwater taffy, and that's about how big it is. And it's quite capable. And it'll do any mode that you can do. So that was my choice. But it doesn't have, if you're going out to activate, it doesn't have to be QRP. It just has to be what you're willing to haul up the mountain and from your vehicle to the summit. N3ICE, when we first started going out, was Yaesu 859. Glenn, AB3TQ, was a 990, a Yaesu 991, and a fairly hefty battery. And if you go with a small group or another ham, there's also the possibility of sharing radios. And most US chasers, if you work them and you say, hey, wait a minute, there's another guy on the hill here, we'll just stand by a second and work him and hand him your microphone. And he calls and the other guy answers him. Now, that doesn't help the chaser. He doesn't get any extra points. If you're on a 4-point hill, he got 4 points for you. He won't get 4 more for your buddy. But it's just, in my opinion, it's good manners. Glenn and I were on a, I think it's W3PD002 down across the Susquehanna in the western part of Pennsylvania Dutch region. And I was contacted by a guy in Czechoslovakia. Great, happy to get it. I'm doing, like say, 10 watts SSB on a MP1 antenna. And, but he would not work another person. And that did not make Glenn happy, and I don't blame him. I didn't think that was a real class act, but hey, everybody to each to his own. And you can get surprised by sometimes DX comes rolling in. I was on Welsh Mountain and worked the Spanish station. Again, 10 watts SSB, in that case into an MP1. If you're not familiar with it, it's the old MP1 little, some people call it a dead short, but it's actually not a bad antenna. All aluminum with a loading coil, and you adjust the loading coil for your bands. I worked Ireland, and this is what I say, they'll surprise you. I'm sitting there, and we're on a mountain pretty close to here, and I'll try to remember the designator in a minute, but since Glenn knew the guy that owned the top of the hill, part of the top of the hill, and had a commercial radio transmitter up there, we got to drive up, which wasn't bad. And I set up my, in that case, buddy pole, and I was working 15 meters with the extended whips. So I had 18 feet or 20 feet of whips out each side. Sags a little bit, but anyway, I'm sitting there and I send a CQ and I get an answer. And it was like, wait a minute, what was that? And I had scribbled down what I thought the call was. And I looked down at it and saw Echo India and a number. I thought, Echo India. That's Ireland. God damn, it's Ireland. I yelled to the other guys with me. So that guy even called me back to make sure I got his call sign right. Because I was a little bit excited. Some of you that have chased DX know what I mean. You're not expecting that that great a contact, but turns out he's one of the top activators, chasers in all of the Republic of Ireland. So he must work it pretty hard. Anyway, there's a lot of fun to be had. There's a lot of surprises, and sometimes some pretty damn bitter disappointments when you only get 3 of the 4 you need. And you've done everything you know. And most of us, at least in our little group, we had multiple antennas with us because we were never hundreds of yards or dozen kilometers away from our vehicle. So I've used my buddy pole, my MP1. I even have an Alex loop, which I think something's broken in now. But anyway, the Alex loop weighs almost nothing. So it's nice to carry. My friends, Jill and Jim, they like NFEDs, and they've each got a very lightweight collapsible fiberglass pole. And Jim likes to work 17 meters. And of course, that's the other thing. When the contesters overrun the airwaves, you can go where they can't be. You can go to 30 meters, 17 meters, and 12 meters, and still make contacts. And actually, if the contesters aren't too crazy, you can work a contester. It's always nice, though, to send a check log in for them. But Jim and I were up in New Jersey on Pimple Hill, great name, Pimple Hill, and another site very close to that. And we had several local hams show up and ask about it, and we showed them what we were doing. And Jim worked Germany, won his Alex loop at 10 watts. So like I said, it can be a lot of fun, can be a lot of challenge. But let me see, what else do I completely blown my notes away here. What I would say about activating, if you're thinking about it, is it takes a little planning. And this time of year takes a little extra planning because many of these sites are either on or adjacent to state hunting lands. Now, I don't want to be confused with a bear. So I usually have some day glow yellow and green on me. And one vest I have has orange, yellow, and green. So there's no excuse for confusing me with a bear, even though right now I look pretty hairy. There we go. And if you're going to be,
vest.
Hmm?
So you can use your radio vest.
Yeah, well, that would do too. I hadn't thought about that. I got the other safety vest from my oldest son, works for part of United Rentals, and they do trench safety. So they're all the guys out on the trenching sites and on the edges of the road and stuff like that have to have vests. And I even had some from a previous employer of his, and I usually had an extra one or two in my vehicle in case we needed them. And we were actually on Shinseki Mountain, and the gates were open, and there were no signs saying you couldn't go up. So we went up, we got to the top, and we were up there for a little while. And a guy with a long gun strung over his shoulder came strolling up and was curious what we were doing. So we suspected they might be upset about us perhaps stirring up deer. So we were very responsive, and he could, walk them around, showed him, so look, we're not hunting. We're not going to chase deer away with gunshots, and we'll be done here real soon. And we did. We got our contacts and got off the hill. Because let's face it, you don't want to make guys with guns mad, which is part of the reason I would never go deer hunting myself, because with many years in law enforcement, if you shoot at me, I'm most likely to shoot back. And I know that more people get shot by idiots taking brush shots on what they think is rustling in the undergrowth is a deer. That's why I try to make sure there's no reason you could make an excuse for thinking I was a deer or a bear, too damn big to be a woodchuck or anything like that. So I take great care when we're out where there might be hunters around. And I usually check the state website to find out what's in season, at least the larger animals, just to make sure. But another thing I would stress to you is you have to plan for the weather changes. And I was at the time, but I'm no longer diabetic. I managed to cure that with some strict dieting. But I always made sure that I had plenty of liquid, and usually usually take lunch because we leave early in the morning and stay out through the end of daylight, because that's what gets more people in trouble doing soda than anything else. Is inadequate clothing, inadequate preparation and planning, and dehydration and low blood sugar is their greater problems. And since there are so many of us hams who are in our now, Jeremy's probably only in his 4th decade, but those of us who are in our 5th, 6th, and myself are approaching the midpoint of my 7th decade, I have to be a little more cautious about some things than I used to be. So let me see, consider safety, absolutely. I think I told you no trespassing. When we were out with Glenn, AB3TQ, like I said, who's now a silent key, he had several Garmin devices. So we would always have him verify our location so we knew we were in the activation zone. He would normally do serious map checking beforehand. there are several sites that are very helpful. Now, if you guys happen to be iPhone users, I know this site the app is available on iPhone. It's called Soda Goats. And it's a great tool. You can pull up topo maps and transit maps and all that.
What was that site?
SOTA, S-O-T-A, new word, goat, G-O-A-T. And if you go on YouTube, you can see a lot of, there's a fair number of SOTA activations on YouTube. And there are even some, they're not YouTube, there's some sites. One of them is called Soda Jerks, and the other is just called Soda. And there was a dispute between, oh, there we go. And really, if you're only going to have one, I would say Soda Goats. But, and you can see that's showing you, trying to see where that is. Not quite large enough. Jeremy, click to enlarge so we can see what. W1, so that's New Hampshire or something like that.
Yeah, they got Killington, so that's Vermont or New Hampshire.
Right. So, I mean, look at the number of sites they've got up there. And they're color coded to tell you what the point value is before you go in and look at one close up. Poverty Ridge, I love that name. There's a campsite, at least there was a campsite in outside of, I believe it was Golden, Colorado, called Poverty Gulch, that went back, built on a campsite built on a pile of mine tailings from a century and a half ago. But okay, now there's W6, of course, that's California. But there's all kinds of summits out there, and they're okay. Now, if you click on the more app information on the bottom there, Jeremy. No, on that like one you opened up. South Twin Mountain will do any one of them that you can open. And down the bottom, more info.
Yeah, I think I can't. It's just a demo here.
Ah, okay. Anyway, the more information is where you'll find those SOTA activators comments about, what the road conditions were like, what the GPS coordinates were for the parking places, spaces. All very helpful. The nearby summits, you decide you want to, I want to think of one in, well, you wanted to do Welsh Mountain. So you go to the Welsh Mountain actual site on there and then click the nearby and you see what other summits are nearby, how far away they are and in what direction. And that helps with your planning. And planning is pretty much required for activating. You need to know where you're going, how to get there and how to get back and what any known issues are. A lot of the people who put additional information on SOTA Goat for a summit will also be kind enough to tell you where a nearby rest stop is, either a fast food joint or a state-owned rest stop, because it's not too bad in the summertime, but in the wintertime, I want to be out of the wind and out of the cold if possible when I have to make a pit stop. But anyway, there's all kinds of information out there. It's all intended to help you. And rather than have this thing go on forever, let me wrap up with, go to www.soda.org.uk and sign up. Doesn't cost you anything. And shortly after you do that, you'll get a number to identify you. And that's what you'll use to log on. And you'll be able to record your chases and if you do any activations. And it'll let you into the database. And the database is really, it's an industrial strength database. There's more information in there than you can imagine. And it's broken down by regions. It's broken down by countries and by regions within countries. Tell you what, Jeremy, can you go back to that the soda, basic soda. Okay. Okay, well here, I was gonna say at the top of that, good on joining in. Online that tells you how to start and what you need to do. Online resources should include the database. Okay, there it is. If you click on the database, there's a nice picture. Let's see, what do we think that is? A 6-meter antenna? Anybody got a guess?
It's a little small for 6 meters, but
2?
Probably 2 is more like it because it looks like it's about 1 meter in diameter.
Yeah, you may not be able to get into the database, Jeremy, because you're not registered.
Yeah, I'd have to log in.
I wish that I had been able to get this to work the way I wanted it to for me, because I, of course, can log in and I'd be able to show you some of the things like, let's see, there are 10 of us who have over 1,000 chaser points. So we've earned the title Shack Sloth. There's a little bit of humor in soda. And I'm not sure why they came up with Mountain Goat, but those who've earned it are very proud of it. And they ought to be. It's a darn lot of work. Fun, but it's still work. I mean, you can do a lot of planning, in most cases, a lot of driving and hiking and a little bit of luck. So there are 4 soda goats in, if I may have said this before, in W3. Jill in 3 ICE is the top. Right under her is Mr. Jones, who's the area manager. And then there are 2 people below them that I don't know, never met. And one of them is an import because he's got or probably an import because he's got a West Coast call sign. If he goes back to the days when it actually meant something, when you were a W3, a 3-land ham, you had a 3 call. And if you were a California ham, you had a 6 call. In Texas, you had, what, a 5, but anyway, and Virginia, a 4. But of course, we all know that doesn't mean nearly as much anymore. I have a friend from the Alexandria Club, former Marine aviator, who's N8 India Kilo for his name, Ian Keith. And I don't think he's ever set foot in 8 land, but he wanted his initials in a call. So when it became available, he grabbed N8IK. And my original call was KK4RBB when I got my license in mid 2013. In fact, I went to Dayton the next week, and I walked into Dayton, a general class ham. I was never a tech, general class ham who didn't own a radio, a ham radio of any kind. And I came out with ICOM ID 51A, And I went back the next year and came out with the KX3 and the buddy pole. And since then, I did pick up a somewhat ancient ICOM from a friend of mine who rehabbed it and then decided he didn't need it. But I haven't put that on the air yet. I hope to one day soon, but anyway, you only need a small radio. And as you all know, you got a $10,000 radio and a $20 antenna, you got a $20 radio in reality. That's perhaps the biggest challenge to SOTA is getting a good functional antenna that's light enough for you to carry. Although you can do full dipoles in most places, there's a lot of trees on sites in summits in Virginia and Maryland and Pennsylvania. Because none of them get to the tree line, and most of them haven't been forested over. So if you've got a throwing kit, you throw your wire up in the tree. You can do a sloper, you can do a dipole, you can do all kinds of things. But anyway, go out and register and give it a try and let me know. Once you get on that website and you get registered, you've got access to all of that database. And you may find it really interesting because they record things like what they call SOTA completes. And a complete is you have worked someone on that summit and then you've activated that summit. And there's stats kept on who has the most summit to summits and who has the, and your own personal record will show you how many regions you've activated. And I've activated in Pennsylvania, W3, W2, and what's Georgia, W4. And I'm looking forward to maybe getting into Canada at the end of next year, in the end of the summer. I'm hoping we'll be able to enter Canada and they'll be able to come here. West Virginia is not very far away. And actually, if you go north, Jeremy, if you were up where the astronomy park is, you're not very far from the New York line, and there's a whole bunch of, they're not very big, a whole bunch of summits, low summits in that part of Western New York. So you could go up there and do one on the Pennsylvania side, one on the New York side, and all of a sudden you'd have two regions activated with just 2 summits. You might only have 2 points, but it doesn't have to be competitive. But I will warn all of you that I've said it and my friends have said it, and I think somewhere on the website it even warns that it's potentially addictive. And you will pay attention to geography in a different way. You know, you're going out into Western Pennsylvania for any reason, and you're looking around saying, gee, is that a summit over there? I wonder if that's a summit. Now, if it's got a TV or radio station antenna on it, chances are it is. And they're easy to see from a distance. And of course, you can use your GPS in your car, your GPS on your phone, separate GPS unit, and get you there. One thing I will warn you, though, if you just try doing coordinates, the coordinates, and you're running along a parallel road, you may never get to those coordinates because the road doesn't go there. It just goes nearby there. Now, it may go near enough that you want to park, get out, and hump your gear over to the summit, but it will keep misdirecting you because of that. So it's a whole lot better to use an auto intentional GPS that'll take you up a road. It will take you close to the summit. And like I say, there's some summits that roads run right over. So before I let you all go, I've taken up more time than I meant to. Does anyone have any questions? I'll do my best to answer them.
Now, what happens if the summit itself is not accessible, like if it's private property or if there's a tower and it's fenced off?
Well, there are lots of summits with towers on them, but the fencing for in most cases is not so expansive that you can't get up there and work it. And it's entirely possible that the whole summit, well, let me back up a second. If you've got multiple radio towers up there, you're going to have a road because those things have to be serviced, and they have to be serviced by fairly substantial vehicles. So, you know, your little Honda or my little Volvo, or I use the Explorer. It's only two-wheel drive, but I use the Explorer to go most of these places. You'll be able to get to it. PD, W3, PD, which is Pennsylvania Dutch 001 and 2, are both so the sites like that, and they're not very far apart. Say they're over across the Susquehanna, but they have both of them very big activation zones. I think it's PD 029 is another one, which is close to us. And that is an absolute drive up and drive across Summit. It's like a football field long, the activation zone. Welsh Mountain, as I said, you don't have any radio operations there. That's the one close to Shady Maple, but that's got a really nice activation zone. And sometimes, as you asked, if the top of the mountain is private property, usually it's the road that's closed off. You know, they say, you know, no trespassing, and it's got a gate across the road. That doesn't mean you can't approach it from the other side and come up over the hill without encountering no trespassing signs and activate it. Topton Mountain is close to us, and that has a federal security radio installation tower on the top. Boy, their signs are nasty. You know, mess with us, you're going to jail kind of thing. But you can get into that activation zone without getting that close to it. I mean, actually, that's the only activated summit, if you will, that I own. And I own in the respect that I was the first one to activate it. So if you go look up Topton Mountain, and the first activation is me. And if you go to that one, Glenn, my dear friend, the Silent Key, left quite a bit of information. Glenn never gave you 25 words or less on how to find a summit. He tells you about what roads. You can come this way, you can come that way. This is your landmark, that kind of stuff. But that one's a relatively easy one to do. And there's an interesting thing about that one. Topton Mountain is at one end of the ridge, and the pagoda in Reading is at the other end of the ridge. And Glenn made a great point of researching, well, why isn't the, Topton Mountain North. First activation, 12th of October, 2015. And actually, I don't know who, well, I do, but I can't remember his name, Alpha 6. That guy was a friend of Glenn's. Messerschmitt, Carl Messerschmitt. I don't know whether Carl is still active. In fact, the day that Carl activated it, it was he and I were up there together. And since and by agreement, if you view extra information, you'll see what I mean. right up. Yeah. Well, there's a summit. Yeah, that. Yeah, the second one, I don't know who did it. I never seen that other activation. But if you go down and click on that one, the lower one there,
Which one? 1222 activation.
I've never seen that one, but we'll have to see what it says. Yeah, and you see now, if you hold on a second, what I wound up doing and what Carl did is we wound up hiking along the cut because that's easier normally than hiking in the woods. Oh, looks like a guy's got a picture of himself down below a little bit. And he has a hiking map. And especially people who are into geocaching have hiking map capability. There you go, Topton Mountain. And there you go. I mean, you can find that place pretty well. There's the road map, and we did it.
But he came in off the road here and then hiked up.
Yeah.
And then here's the peak.
Now, if you go back and click on Glenn's, you'll see what I mean about leaving. That should be, there you go, AB3 TQ. Glenn went from 0 to hero in one day. He was an Air Force microwave repair technician. And he sat down and he took element 2, 3, and 4 the same day. And I guess he was, and that's his red cardinal is his geocaching handle. As you can see, Glenn didn't do it in 25 words or less. And I don't mean to criticize him because you have to have a good memory and take good notes to do that. And he gives you pictures of various things. And that's the parking area where we all parked, and then we hiked up following his directions. And you get that fence and you turn left and you follow around the fence, and then you can go up the power cut, and you can see that big antenna. There you go. That's the public safety tower that's up on the top of the hill there. And that's the one, like I said, that has nasty signs that say, and that's what it looks like from the ground level. And he may even have a close up of the sign, but you don't want to do anything. There you go. And there's was Glenn set up his Alex loop and his ID Yaesu 991. So I would say to you, if you're going to activate, keep yourself a little better log than I did in some of the things I started. Make decent notes of the weather. Anybody who was with you, what radio and antenna you use, because 2 years later, unless you always use the same radio and always use the same antenna, you're not going to remember. And some people have taken now to adding the current solar conditions to their activations, just so they learn as much as possible about propagation. Because like I said, I've been surprised. I never expected from central Pennsylvania on that PD 002 to work Czechoslovakia. But then I didn't expect to work Spain from Welsh Mountain or Cuba from the other one. So always nice to know how you did it, even if it was a lucky accident. So as I said, if you're going out on a mountain, plan. Maybe make sure you got a little extra clothing with you, a little extra food, plenty of water. Rain gear is not a bad idea. The first time I went out, I went to meet Glenn on Welsh Mountain. He offered to come over and help me. And I made contact with Glenn just because I looked up the Welsh Mountain site and saw that he'd been there. So he came down. He didn't live very far away. He came down and we spent good 2 hours without making a blessed contact from there. But I didn't know how to spot properly. I didn't know how to take advantage of those features. And let's face it, if you're putting out a 10-watt signal in a compromised antenna, which anything you're going to carry up the hill is going to be a compromise, unless you, I'll take that back, unless you drag a dipole along, and actually a dipole doesn't have to be very heavy, and throw it up in the tree, you're going to have a compromised antenna. So nobody was looking for us. And nobody heard me, although I heard several conversations. I tried to attract their attention unsuccessfully. So as we were getting ready to leave, the sky opened up. And we were, I don't know, 100 yards from the vehicle. Going 100 yards at a downpour, you can get pretty damn well drowned. And both of us got soaked to the skin. So we went and found a place to, well, we toweled off in the vehicles and made sure the equipment was toweled off. And of course, I had a very waterproof pack. So once it started to rain, I got that radio undercover and then in the waterproof pack quickly. Because as you all know, most of our transceivers do not like water at all in any way, shape, or form. So anyway, we went to a local eatery. I bought him lunch. He took me up to what was his club's site. Killing me that I can't think of the name of it, but and that's where I worked the 20-meter contact to Cuba. So, and that was with my MP1 sitting on the ground. So, and Jeremy, you have a KX2, which is a very nice radio for this kind of stuff. Get yourself, well, that one has an internal battery, doesn't it? My KX3 has, I can put disposable alkalines in it, rechargeable alkalines, or what I have is nickel metal hydrides. But I also picked up last year and a half ago a Piano, the lithium ion phosphate battery. It's 8 amp hours. And with as little draw as a KX2 or a KX3 makes, you could run for a week on that much power. And it's not heavy. So I used to run it with a slab, 7 amp hour slab, but that gets heavy after, a couple hundred yards. And in fact, some of the guys go real QRP and they become what we started to refer as the gram weenies. They wanted to strip every gram out of their rig that they could. Now, to me, a difference between 10 grams and 20 grams is, I can't recognize it. But anyway, if you're going to hike 5 miles into a site and 5 miles back, a couple grams difference might really make a difference. But anyway, go to the site, register, it's free, and research a little bit. You know, look at the summits, do some chasing, because I know everybody out, well, I don't know about Jeremy, but I know that Brian has a permanent antenna, and I'm sure Jim does. And pretty sure Dennis was on here before. I don't know whether he still is, but I'm sure he has. So you guys could become chasers and successful chasers fairly quickly. And the other nice thing is, if you get to activating, we had a group of hams we referred to as our usual suspects, who whenever we would alert and then spot, we would hear from, there was a couple in Leavenworth, Kansas, Gary and Martha, they're both hams. I met both of them at Dayton a couple of years ago. Really nice people. They would turn up. There's a couple out of New Hampshire, I think, and they're my age or older, middle 70s now. Herman and the wife's name is Merle, and they've got sequential calls. Maybe it's KB1, BRC, and BRB, something like that. And they would turn up frequently. And there were a couple other people. I had a West Coast ham, November Golf 6 Romeo. He is now the top chaser in California. And he started chasing when I asked him to chase me. And I don't know, he's got 20-some thousand chase points. But then he's a QRO guy. He's sitting just outside of LA, but to the south. And he's got a hex beam that just sticks up over his roof line and a full legal limit amp. So, but I worked him from Topton. I worked him from several other places. So it's always nice to hear Jerry. And if I post an alert and then a spot, Jerry's likely to turn up. That's Dr. Jerry Kendrick, PhD in electrical engineering. So he's been playing with radio forever. So anyway, I guess, Jeremy, we ought to bring this to the end. And if anybody has any questions, I believe my stuff is still good on QRZ for an email connection. Although my email is pretty easy to remember. It's my name at me.com, John Hookie, Hucke at me.com. And yeah, the pronunciation's a little off from the spelling, but that's because the pronunciation is a corruption of Prussian German that my great-grandfather spoke. And I never, of course, met him or heard him, or even my grandfather, but anyway, I understand when he said it, it came out more like Hucke. And he would say that to English speakers and he'd get hooky back. And after a dozen years of going through that, he just said, to hell with it. Just, we'll adopt to them. So anyway, gentlemen, you've heard me evangelize about soda on nets from time to time. And it's a fun part of the hobby. And since I'm restricted largely, but not exclusively to outdoor portable operating, soda and portable operations go together. So if anybody's got any questions, geez, we've now been on here for 2 hours, so I did talk too much. Then I started out to try to keep it as simple as I could and stay away from the minutia, which both Jill and Jim warned me, and they were right. And I still got into more minutia, but I have to give you some of the minutia, or even the main strokes don't make much sense. So like I said, anybody who has any questions, send me an email. Jeremy's got my cell phone number, so I don't like to put those things out on the web, but thank you all for listening, and I hope you got something out of it. And if you do decide to activate especially, let me know and I'll do my best to chase you. So with that, Jeremy, I'll say thank you for your assistance. And I'm going to figure out how to do this right with this Zoom. And so I was really happy because from here, I could run that whole website and I, could have jumped around and poked around some things. If you go on that website, gentlemen, you see the, I think it's called the ARM for W3, which is the rules. If you go to the very bottom of that, you will see a map of Pennsylvania with the counties and then the regions that are covered by those counties. So I don't know, maybe you've got a fishing or hunting place in the Poconos. That's W3. Go up there and operate, and there'll be some close to you. There's nothing in Delaware, and there's nothing in DC, but there are some in Western Maryland and Central Maryland. Nothing in Southern Maryland or on the shore because the Delmarva Peninsula is pretty much tabletop. Delaware is about 100 feet short of having a soda height. They've got something called the Ebert azimuth, I think, and it's 385 or 400 feet high, and you need 500 to be a summit. So maybe if they start dumping landfill on top of that, they can get to a recognized summit, because once it shows up on the official maps as 400 or 500 feet, it can be a summit. That's why there's none in Delaware County. And anyway, have fun, and I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you learned something. So I will say thank you, and I'm just going to sit here and be quiet till the end, Jeremy. Unless
All right.
somebody's got a question.
All right. Thanks so much, John. That was a great presentation. So,
Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you.
yeah, we have to clap silently or it messes up all the sound. All right. Does anyone have any questions for John?
No, looks
All
like
right,
everyone's still awake.
All right, then. Does anyone else have anything for the meeting? All right. If not, the meeting is adjourned officially. You can hang out and chat, but we'll call the meeting to a close, and I will see you again in March for Tim Duffy's presentation. So thanks very much for joining us.